Welcome to the Visionless Experimental Museum. Sorry for the darkness. It may take a moment to get comfortable with this environment. Our founder, Hannah, built these experimental projects intended to challenge the vision-dominant cultures in the current immersive experience platform. You will meet her after this tour, and she will talk more about her research and process. The layout of this space is quite simple, but also very immersive. In our founder's perspective, immersive reality does not necessarily have to always deal with visuals. There are 3 sections or types of experience. Maybe you can tell the intentions of this place from its name. We want you to be less dependent on vision, but more on auditory perception. We are also exploring other sensations such as tactile and smell, and hopefully next time when you visit, you can also have experience with those. Okay, we've reached our first section. The interactive experience of this section aims to translate our eye blink, a very soundless, quiet object, to generative music. Here is a demo video. Okay, you may get some idea from the demo video. Does anyone have any questions?
Excuse me, can I stay here for a while?
You will be able to return after I walk you through all the space. It is really dark here, so it is better to know every section first so you will not get lost. Okay, the second section. Ops, seems that part of this experience is updating. Supposedly, in the second part, you can translate your body movements, like arm waves, to real-time generative music. However, now only hand gestures are enabled. Anyways, let's see the demonstration. All right, last section. Here you can mail your postcard to your family and friends. Sounds cliche, huh? Well, the card you are actually sending to is converting from the snippet of your soundless smile, blink, or body gestures. Over there is a booth that you can capture, and it will translate them to a tactile postcard. That's pretty much here. Now it is your time to enjoy your exploration. My name is Austin. Feel free to ask me any questions. Hope you all have a great stay in Visionless Lab.
Thanks, Austin, for this virtual tour of the Visionless Experimental Museum. Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm using my future auditory representative, so it may sound very different from what I actually sound like. I will introduce you more about my research process and design concept. We all possibly can reach an agreement that we live in a vision-dominated world. Seeing is believing. This slogan exists in both Eastern and Western culture. However, does what we see really represent reality, or we modify reality based on how we visually perceive it? The dominance of vision is the result of the way our societies are designed and thus heavily influenced by human decision-making. As a designer, developer, and artist, it is inevitable that most of my works are vision-dominant. However, what if I lost the ability to see? Would I still be qualified as a designer? With these questions in mind, my thesis combines varied experiments to challenge the vision-dominant culture that we have in our current technology, society, and design. One of the valid questions to ask behind the idea of seeing is believing is, how do we sense? In See Yourself Sensing by Madeline Schwartzman, her projects inspired me to see sensing in frame-like procedures and really think of how we sense and how all the sinews are interrelated with each other. Like synesthesia, which is stimulation of one sensory and leads to involuntary experiences in another sensory. What if we do not have vision? I designed 2 experiments that observed how my participants navigated the drawing and sculpting process while blindfolded themselves to simulate the situation of vision loss. I also want to investigate how may sound. This sort of second important sense navigates the visual creating process by observing how they drew with gut reaction to the soundtrack they never heard before. To understand better about the perspective of people with impaired vision, I reach out to the people in the visually impaired communities. Meanwhile, I started to look at the history of design and disability studies, inclusive design and multimodality experience. I used to think the amount of people with complete blindness should be enormous, but actually there are only 10% of people that are considered to have no light perceptions. There are multiple causes to vision loss. People with these conditions have partial but functional sight. Their vision perception got my attention and interest, so I ended up building a concept of VR escape room game. I choose VR as my design medium because I believe that VR can facilitate the exploration of imaginal worlds, which is a central tenet of the creative processes of both art and play. However, the current VR applications are heavily visual dependent and inaccessible to the low vision communities. The goal of this game is to simulate the different impaired vision for the sighted players. They will depend on their tactile and auditory perception to solve the puzzles in the game. Till here, I was aiming to raise the empathy of sighted people from playing this game by simulating visually impaired people's vision. However, there is a question that emerges: do the visually impaired people need this empathy? Maybe, just as Georgiana Cleage, one of the legally blind artists and researchers, said in her book, true access needs to be understood as something more than a one-sided act of generosity or charity. I believe the power and the importance of empathy in any design paradigm. However, what is beyond? We consider visual impairments as a type of disability, but would it because the vision dominance is an unchangeable constant, a modality we are used to? Maybe we are the one who is impaired. In order to jumping out from merely building an empathy project, I put my eyes on sound. Sound usually is subject to visual in all the current interactive platforms that actually has a lot potential and abstractions. The Marabine theory is a concept concerning the communication of emotions. The rule states that 7% of meaning is communicated through spoken word, 38% through tone of voice, and 55% through body language. Can sound dominant be immersive? Can auditory perception become a lead to our visual creativity? In the early stage of my thesis, I designed several experimental web installations that aim to encourage sighted people drawing with body movements while blindfolded, under non-speech and spatial auditory feedback. I also explored the idea of converting colors of each video pixel to generative rhythm, and also some experiments on translating hand movements to sound. However, as you can tell, most of them are not pleasing to the ears. For the final, I started with defining some soundless objects, such as blink, smile, and raising eyebrows. One of the important concepts in my thesis is thinking about the cultural connotation of smiling. What if this visual obvious behavior is auditory? What will someone's smile sound like? Finally, in order to make the sound more aesthetically, I researched music theory to design the sound output more ear-pleasing. I experimented with Chinese pentanoic in the previous video, and also Dorian mode, which I did not include in my final output. This thesis is a big challenge because I never designed towards sound before, but it is also a fresh start as I'm rethinking the way we sense and perceive the world, and also resolve some bias we possibly have from the way we see this world. We rely on visuals and we consider lack the ability to see as a disability. However, would it be true that we are the one who are actually disabled? I see this thesis as a start to consider design for more modality in the future, and I believe this is the key to make the future design in all the fields more inclusive and universal. This thesis is not an end but rather a fresh start to look at design and interactive experience for more modality-wise, which is also what I want to continue in my later academic research in the future.